Hi everyone, so today I'm going to do a review of the 24-inch pen display by Xencelabs. Now I have been using a regular tablet by Xencelabs now for over a year and a half or so, and I have to say that compared to Wacom, zero issues. The only issue I ever had with that one was that it wouldn't wake from sleep, so I'd have to power it off, power it back on. Now this one is brand new, it's a brand new release, and keeping in mind that most pen displays, and the pen display is not a computer, so you have to attach it to your computer. Now, most of these pen displays were made more or less for digital art. So, if you're drawing or you're painting or you're doing whatever digital medium, it's mostly for that. So I was a little tentative in that I didn't see any photographer reviews. Now I know it hadn't been released generally to the general public, so when I was looking to purchase it or looking for information on it, I couldn't find much for photographers. So I expected there to be a couple hiccups and some issues, but one of the main reasons that I chose this one over a Huion or over the other less expensive ones is because, like Cintiq, I absolutely needed the color space RGB. And I needed that because I am a print photographer, so I do most of my own printing myself. So I really wanted that, but it's still an issue. And here's the reason why. So when I calibrate my monitors, right? So you do calibrate this, but if I calibrate it to my iMac identically, use the identical settings, I get a much cooler color on the pen display than I do on my iMac. So when it comes to true color, I always have to look at my iMac and I always have to know that that's the color I'm working at, even though this one in particular appears much cooler, which can be a pain in the butt, especially because sometimes you'll forget to, oh, I better look over and see what color my image is. And it is warmer. I've calibrated both. I've tried multiple times and I just can't seem to get it. So maybe one day they'll fix it or somebody will tell me how to do it properly. I do use an iDisplay profiler and I've never had issues with it before. So I don't really know what the deal is. Now, as far as the upside, okay, it comes with its own stand. If you get a Cintiq will cost you what, another $700 to get the stand, otherwise there's no stand. So that makes no sense to me. This comes with the stand. And I'll show you how easy it is. There's just a little clip and you can either pull it up like so, and then you can work like this, or you can bring it down all the way flat if you want. It'll go flatter than this, but I don't have room back there right now. Okay, so I tend to keep it something like this. It might be too upright for some people, but you will notice that my lovely husband built this little drawer for my keyboard, and I usually will rest my elbow right here, and I will pull the image to this part of the screen so that I can relax. But you will still have to go up and choose some of your menu items that way unless you're using shortcuts. Okay, so what are the downfalls so far? Well, other than the color issue, which is a bit of an issue, but realistically I expected some hiccups, this particular screen does not appear nearly as sharp as my iMac. So sometimes I'll be working on an image and I'll say, oh my God, it's just not a very sharp image. And I shoot Sony, so my images are tack sharp. So I just refer to my iMac and I get, it's okay, it's sharp, it's tack sharp. So there's that, which I don't really understand, but that's okay. And waking from sleep. So when my computer goes to sleep, I sometimes have to restart the entire tablet, pen display tablet. It's just a button up here, you press it, it powers down, powers back up. And that's not so bad. And I did have that same issue with just my tablet from Xencelabs too. Coming from sleep, I would have to turn it off, turn it back on. With this one, you have to actually recalibrate your pen or it won't work. So that's a bit of a pain. And in the settings, there is a setting that you can click on that says wake pen from sleep when your computer wakes up. Well, that doesn't work sometimes. And that's just the thing too, is sometimes it does work and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't really understand why. And maybe if someone from Xencelabs sees this, maybe they'll let us know. So there's that issue as well. But honestly, other than that, that's really the only thing that I would complain about. Everything else has been exactly as I would have wanted. I did not want to get a Cintiq for a couple of reasons. Number one, the fans. So I'm constantly recording tutorials. As a matter of fact, I have recorded about 15 new tutorials on my pen display now for my new platform that I'm going to be launching shortly. And please bear with me because Teachable royally screwed us around, and so I've had to create brand new content. And the reason I did that as well is because, you know, Photoshop has changed so much since I originally made courses in my Teachable school, and I thought they're not even really relevant anymore. So I definitely decided to go ahead and just create new content. It's going to be membership platform, so it's going to cost $34 a month, and there's going to be brand new tutorials every single month. And there's going to be tutorials that have add-ons, so that, like chapters, and adding on for the next month and adding on for the next month. And I think it's going to be a fantastic community. It's more of a community on my new platform than just a school where you can't really talk to anyone. So that should make it fun too. So I'm really looking forward to that. So if I was recording tutorials and I had fans blowing and my mic was right there, that just wouldn't work for me. So I knew that was not an option. Additionally, the Cintiqs are so much more expensive, and because I'm Canadian, I spend 30% more of my money on anything that I purchase in US dollars. So that was a consideration. This was $18.99 US, and I think the 24 display for a Cintiq with the same kind of features was somewhere around $4,000. And I mean, it's just, why bother, right? And so many reviews are so bad, so many issues, people sending them back and then having to send another unit back, and I just really didn't want to deal. I didn't like the Wacom tablet that I had because they couldn't keep up with the software changes every time Photoshop updated something or OS updated something, or it would take Wacom forever to kind of rewrite the download for the software and the drivers, and I had it. So when another photographer told me about Xencelabs, I went ahead and purchased it right away. Again, way less expensive, and I just bought it on Amazon and it was here in 2 days. So the quality of the build, so much better than Wacom. All of the materials that they use to create their devices are just so much more superior. They feel more luxury, they feel heavy duty, they don't feel like a cheap plastic. It's really quite shocking, to be honest with you, the price that Wacom charges for all of their devices, and they don't even use the same quality. And yes, Xencelabs is a Chinese company, and I know some people have issue with that, but for less expense, for far better build, for more reliability, quiet, I mean, how could I not? Also with Xencelabs, it comes with a case and you get 2 pens, 2 styluses. So you get your regular one, that's a thicker one. You get your little USB nib specifically for your little button device, which I don't use because I use my keyboard. And you also have an attachment USB to USB-C. So you get so many nibs. I think there's 10 here, and that's always fantastic. Even this little device is just pure luxury. So it also comes with a glove, but because this is not a touch screen, so it doesn't matter. You can lean on it, you can move your hand. It has that paper finish, so it's not glossy. You're not getting glare. You're not like my iMac. I couldn't imagine drawing on my iMac. My iPad for drawing in Procreate, I have the paper screen, so it's very much like this. But if you wanted to, you could easily just toss on your little glove here, and it looks like this, and then it would slide better. But I really don't find the sliding to be an issue whatsoever. And so the only learning curve that I really felt with this was just the arm movement of doing this, right? Which is why my husband built me this, so that I can rest my elbow sometimes and I'm not just constantly. And I do weights 3 times a week, so you know, my arms are fairly toned and I'm really strong, but you know, anyone's going to get tired of doing this constantly, and as many hours a day that I edit, I knew I needed a little resting thing, and I needed somewhere to put my keyboard too. So I absolutely love it, and even though I know it's not perfect, I don't really know any that are, so I'm not sitting here to complain and bash them whatsoever. I think the build is spectacular. The stand is included, and that is an additional cost that Cintiq makes you pay. So I think that all of that is fantastic, and I'll just show you a little bit about what I do with it, and I'll show you a demo, and then we'll get into the settings, and I'll show you how to set it up with your cursor, like you offset your pen so that you can't see where you're actually, you know, affecting, which I was worried about, but the offset super helps. So I just want to show you, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the difference in the sharpness on the pen display compared to the difference in the sharpness on my iMac. And you should really be able to see the difference in the color. See how cool this one is? And then you can see how much warmer my iMac is. So that's my reference for my color toning and making sure that my image has the correct color when I am editing as well. Okay, so like I said, I do rest my arm here, and I use my keyboard because I didn't want to learn how to use the button device. Now this is the button device that it comes with, and this is instead of using a keyboard, and essentially when you turn it on, you have to click this button here, and this button is like using your shift key or whatever, and it kind of takes you through the menus, and then you use these buttons to affect, you know, certain tools and brushes and stuff that you're trying to do. And for me, it was way more time consuming than the very simplistic way of using my keyboard in Photoshop, so I opted not to bother with that. And so this way I can still very easily just use my keyboard, affect whatever size I'm doing, you know, and this is, you know, in Liquify here, and I just find it so easy to manipulate and, you know, just affect your image any way that you really normally would. I do tend to always work more on this portion of the screen, and the reason for that is because I have my elbow here. Now you could lay your monitor down a little bit more, but I need to see it, and although I have my Mac right here and I can refer back to it for color and all that other stuff that I need, I do tend to just like to rest my hand here as opposed to being down, because when I have it down lower, I can't see it as well, because then I have to lean forward, and this is a comfortable position for me. So, you know, I really am enjoying it. I think that it's a great addition to my workflow. I've always wanted it. One other little thing that I find I struggle with is my right click doesn't work often, and I have it programmed. So I'm going to go into Xencelabs right now. So this here is my pen display, and I'm actually just going to record this on my monitor, and that way I'll be able to show you that from the screen and not looking at it this way. And so this is the Xencelabs control. So you can see here cursor offset, right? So I have that turned on, and if I click this, essentially I just move my cursor up from the circle a bit and then apply it. You can preview it here so you can see where your cursor is in relation to the nib on your stylus. And I always keep it right about right there, and I click apply. And if we go into our 3-pen button here, you can see that I have right click chosen right here, but it just doesn't seem to work very often. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, so that's frustrating. A lot of times too, I've got Photoshop Beta and Photoshop up here as a list of applications. And I do find as well that sometimes when I have to turn it off and on again, that I'll have 100 Corel painting and 100 Illustrator, and I don't use those, and I'll have no Photoshop. So then you have to come in, you have to click this button, remove selected application, and you have to do it for like 25 applications that randomly show up. So that's a pain too. If you go back into your device settings, this is where I have to recalibrate my pen, and I'll show you what it looks like. So if I hit recalibrate, it's actually going to appear on my display over there in that direction. So I don't think I can show you that. It's not going to record that screen, but I would have to hit recalibrate, which is indeed a pain because I can't seem to get the calibration to appear on my pen display. It only appears on my third monitor. So that's a bit of a pain. If I come here and I turn my BenQ off, and I just have this one, like this one, it says all displays. So if I turn everything off except the pen display, it still won't show up here. It still shows up on the BenQ. So there's that issue as well. If you click virtual tablet, it just kind of shows you, you can choose small, medium, large, small left corner, but I just keep it on small. I just keep it where it is. And if you click home, you can go into your pens and you can be specific with your settings. Like I said, I've got all of these set up, and for whatever reason it doesn't seem to work very well. We can go into our color settings. This is where our Adobe RGB is, which is lovely, but it still doesn't seem to calibrate to be true like my iMac. And if we go into quick actions, this here is where you can adjust your brightness, and I tend to adjust the brightness so that it matches my Mac because I know that my Mac is actually more true. And you can even adjust, let's say you want to adjust your contrast, that is where you would do that too. And you see right here, wake with pen, disable device buttons. I don't have it disabled, so I don't really know. When you have to recalibrate your pen, this automatically turns off again. So it says here, it says when turned on, a pen touch can wake the display. When turned off, you must use a keyboard. Using this setting consumes slightly more power. With this setting in the off position, the display meets Energy Smart standards. So that's probably why it doesn't wake with pen, because I'm doing it wrong. So, okay guys, I actually read that for the first time. So yeah, I have Adobe RGB. These are my display controls, and I'm just going to turn these back on because it hasn't turned off with waking lately, and maybe it's because I didn't turn those off again. And if we look, it says your cursor doesn't appear directly under your pen tip. It's time to recalibrate. And you'll see it because when it's not working, your Finder menu will just pop up as soon as you touch your stylus to the screen. And you can choose left or right-handed. So there's that, which is great, right? So let's go back to our project here. So yeah, so that's the thing. So now you'll see if I right-click, nothing happens. So I always have to go to my mouse, and I have to do it this way. And I'm just going to pull this down. This was a bridal boudoir shoot I did the other day, and I've just begun editing all of her images for her album. And yeah, so that's what we're doing here. So, you know, sometimes when you're getting used to a new device, it can be a struggle, right? And I just didn't struggle with this. Like, I felt really, really good about it. But like, in all honesty, there was a learning curve. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say, oh, it was absolutely easy and fine and I had zero issues. No, it still took me a while to adapt to doing this. And I think once you get used to that, make sure you have something to rest your elbow on. You will be so much better off. And the color between the two is an issue, so I hope I can get that figured out, or they can help me with that one day. But other than that, guys, I really truly think that if you've been waiting for a pen display like this Cintiq has way too many problems and the price tag is way too high for me. I just cannot justify converting that to Canadian dollars, and I'm, you know, sitting up near, you know, $6,000-7,000, and this was simply what, 30, I think all in I ended up paying 3,800 with shipping, so that was far better, half price at least. And yeah, so I hope you found this helpful. I hope that if you're in the market, you might consider it or wait until it gets perfected. Either way, I am pretty impressed with it. So until the next video, I'll see you guys soon.